Number 11. The Pirate's Ghost. Ever wondered when you'll meet the man or woman of your dreams? Well, Amanda Large has found her perfect match. Apparently, she met the ghost of a 300-year-old Haitian pirate while meditating back in 2014. She talked with him for many months until she was certain his identity was Jack Teague. Amanda even claimed Jack inspired the character of Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Amanda started to explore the world of spirituality back in 2014 after her 3-month-old son died from sudden infant death syndrome. After this, she considered herself to be agnostic and decided to marry Jack in July of 2016. She even changed her last name to Teague to honor her spiritual husband. But Amanda ended up divorcing Jack just a few years later because she believed he was draining her energy. She claimed Jack was basically an energy vampire, and she was his only source of energy. So when she realized she wanted a divorce, she decided to get an exorcism and cut all ties with the spiritual world. Amanda says her health has, quote, drastically improved ever since letting Jack go. T.M. Lerman, an anthropologist from the University of Stanford, thinks Amanda might have gone into a dissociative state after the death of her child. Some people even speculated she might have been schizophrenic. Amanda says she knows that some people think she's crazy, but she also says if people can believe in God or angels, then she should be given the freedom to believe in spirits too. Number 10. The Eiffel Tower. Erica Labor identifies as objectum sexual, which basically means she has an attraction towards inanimate objects like a lot of people on our list. Erica first noticed her OS tendencies when she was just a child. She said while all her friends started dating, she found herself having romantic feelings for a bridge near where she used to live. In 2007, Erica married her partner of over 10 years, the Eiffel Tower. Yes, the Eiffel Tower, and even changed her last name to Eiffel. She had a documentary called Married to the Eiffel Tower, which was released around a year after the wedding. The documentary popularized their relationship, but Erica was unenthused. She claimed the documentary raised misconceptions about people with OS and prompted the idea that they had this attraction because they were abused or had some sort of mental illness. Erica has spoken out about how OS impacts her life in positive and negative ways. She said most of her friends and family rejected her, but she achieved great things because of her unique way of love. Erica is actually a 4-time world champion in archery because of her love for her bow. After almost 10 years with the tower, their relationship ended, and Erica moved on to something better. But she doesn't wish to reveal any details about her new lover. She says the Eiffel Tower will always have a special place in her heart, even though they've broken up. Number 9. The Devil's Bridge. Everyone wants a dream wedding with their special someone, but hardly ever is that special someone a bridge. Jody Rose from Sydney found herself falling in love with the Devil's Bridge while she was traveling in France. According to Rose, marrying the bridge was a surreal and, quote, beautiful experience. Rose even called the bridge handsome, strong, and sturdy. We can agree with 2 of those adjectives. Their marriage was not legally recognized in France, but Rose says their unity was strong enough it didn't even matter. Surprisingly, 14 of Rose's friends and family attended the wedding. On top of that, their union was even blessed by the local mayor. Rose actually worked on a project called Singing Bridges and was traveling to all kinds of bridges around the world, but she said the Devil's Bridge is special because it makes her feel more connected to the earth. She also said she loved how her husband provides her with a safe place to rest and never stops her from traveling. She even made a custom ring for the bridge, which is still there to this day, and she proudly wears her own ring, too. Number 8. A phone. A filmmaker from Los Angeles, CHERVENAK, says he wants to point out how extremely dependent people are on their phones. He said people are so connected to their mobile device that they'll use it all the time and have it with them almost 24 hours a day. People even go to sleep with their phone, and sometimes it's a thing that wakes them up too. It might even be the very first thing you check. This is exactly why Aaron decided to literally marry his cell phone. Aaron married his phone on May 20th, 2016, even though their union wasn't legally recognized by Nevada authorities. According to him, the longest relationship he'd ever been in was with his phone, which is why he wanted to see what it would be actually like to marry it. Michael Kelly, the owner of the chapel the ceremony took place in, thought the whole situation was really strange, but he later agreed to do it and revealed he'd been part of a fair share of weird weddings, so a man marrying a cell phone wouldn't be too out of the ordinary for him. During the ceremony, the officiator literally said, quote, "It is now my honor and my privilege to pronounce your husband an smartphone." How much time do you spend on your phone? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video so far, be sure to subscribe to see more cool videos. Number 7. The Berlin Wall. Aisha Rita Berliner Mauer claims she actually fell in love with the Berlin Wall after she saw it on TV at just 7 years old. She said she used to save, quote, his photos so she had something to look at before she could actually visit the wall. Once she saved up enough money, she went to the wall and her relationship began. By her 6th visit in 1979, she was married and had a handful of guests to show up to the ceremony. They had a great relationship and Aisha said she was finally happy. But everything went downhill when the wall was removed in 1989. She watched her, quote, husband being torn down and was absolutely horrified by the sight. She said she hasn't gone back and that she keeps photos of the wall to see its, quote, former glory. Aisha even said the authorities mutilated her spouse. After the destruction of the Berlin Wall, she shifted her attention to a different thing, a garden fence not too far away from where the wall used to be. She said she thinks, quote, long, slim things with horizontal lines are very sexy, and even said the Great Wall of China is attractive, but he's too thick. Whatever floats her boat. Number 6. A roller coaster. 35-year-old Amy Wolf Weber from Pennsylvania said she knew she would marry the 80-foot or just over 24-meter roller coaster rides the moment she sat on it. She was only 13 years old the first time she rode it, but apparently she was instantly attracted to it and never actually told anyone because she knew it wasn't normal to have feelings for an inanimate object, let alone a carnival ride. Amy ended up riding the coaster over 3,000 times before she decided to tie the knot. She carries a picture of her on the ride everywhere she goes. She even sleeps with the picture every day since she can't take the whole ride home. According to Amy, the roller coaster and her have a very fulfilling physical relationship, and she never feels jealous when someone else rides it. She also changed her last name to Weber, which is the ride's manufacturer. Number 5. Robot. A lot of people are pressured to get married, settle down, and have a family. 31-year-old artificial intelligence engineer Zheng Zhizha found herself in this exact situation. Zheng was actually ready to get married and settle down once and for all, but he couldn't find a single woman that lived up to his standards. It can be pretty difficult to find that special someone, but it's even harder for men from China to find a woman because of the drastic gender gap. So instead of continuing his search, he just decided to make the perfect bride for himself. He created and wrote the code for a robot he named Ying Ying. He dated Ying Ying for 2 months and decided she was the best it was going to get for him. He decided to marry her and even carried her down the aisle himself. Most of Zheng's friends and family came to the ceremony with Ying Ying wearing traditional Chinese wedding clothes. Ying Ying isn't actually fully done yet, she can only say a few things and recognize simple pictures, but Zheng says he will continue to upgrade his wife over the years to come. He even said she'll be able to walk and do household chores at some point. Number 4. Barbie Doll. Chang Hee-shum was in love with a beautiful woman named Tsai, and they had a great relationship, but his parents disapproved of their union to the point Tsai committed suicide. After she died, Chang was devastated, but tried to move on by marrying a Taiwanese widower. But she knew that Chang wasn't over his first wife's death. In 1999, over 20 years after Tsai committed suicide, Chang decided to marry a Barbie doll in order to put his late wife's spirit to rest. His second wife actually approved of the ceremony and supported Chang the whole time. They ended up getting hitched in a Buddhist temple with the Barbie doll in a wedding gown and jewelry that actually belonged to Tsai. Chang's parents gave their blessing this time and apologized for disapproving before. Tsai's Mercedes, which was included in her dowry, was burned during the ceremony because Zheng believed she could use it in the spirit world. Spiritual marriages, which use an object to represent a dead loved one, are actually quite common and not as strange as you might think. But what isn't very common in Chinese culture is using a Barbie doll to represent a dead wife. Number 3. A train station. 45-year-old Carol Santa claims she's been in a romantic relationship with the Santa Fe train station since she was 9 years old. She takes an hour-long bus ride to the train station every single day just to spend time with the building. Now, that's commitment. She also calls the train station Daedra instead of its real name. Carol identifies as objectum sexual, and she says she regularly has sex with the building mentally. The unlikely pair tied the knot back in 2015. Apparently, they started dating back in 2011, despite Carol having feelings for the train station way before. Carol says she greets the station every time she sees it, but tries to make it as unnoticeable as possible. She even says that when she touches her, it feels like she is actually holding me. Carol also said she doesn't have physical sex with the building in public because she wants to be respectful. She says the train station has been the main love of her life since the day she saw it, even though she was actually with a man at one point. But once that relationship was over, Carol said she needed to be with someone that wouldn't wouldn't leave her no matter what, or couldn't in this case. She actually has been working as a volunteer for emotional support groups for a few years. Carol says objective sexuality isn't a mental illness like people try to make it out to be. She also started to compare it to being gay or bisexual. After that, she said she hopes one day they'll be accepted too. Number 2, a stone. Tracy Emin is an artist from London who is known for her long history of controversial public appearances and pieces. She was well known for pushing the limits in basically everything she did, and who she married wasn't much different either. Emin married a stone in 2015 after falling in love. The stone is currently in Emin's garden in France. According to her, she was inspired when she read the letters between Pope John Paul II and Anna Teresa Timianiecka. They shared a lot of romantic and passionate notes over a few months, but never met in real life. Because of this, Emin started to think about her spiritual connections, and the first thing that came to mind was her beloved stone. She called it a, quote, beautiful ancient stone, and even calls it her anchor because it's, quote, not going anywhere. Emin says that whenever she has a bad day, she always thinks about her stone husband, and it lifts up her mood right away. She also said that she prefers people to call her husband a stone and not a rock. This is because she thinks a rock is something that's cut by humans, while a stone has been created by the earth. Emin says her husband is not something humans have made. Instead, nature created it. Number 1, a cardboard cutout. When Twilight first came out, almost every teenage girl was obsessed with Edward, played by Robert Pattinson. But most of these girls grew out of the phase and moved on with their life. But 25-year-old Lauren Atkins was determined to make her dream of marrying Robert Pattinson's character Edward Cullen come true. How did she do it? She literally married his cardboard cutout. While Lauren was a little out of touch with the reality, she was still aware that there was no way she'd ever be able to actually marry Robert. So instead of hoping for the impossible, she decided to marry a cardboard cutout. She said it was the closest thing she'd ever get to the real thing. Lauren said she loved how Edward was quiet and mysterious. She also said the moment she saw Robert Pattinson portray the vampire, she knew right away she wanted to marry him. The Viva Las Vegas Chapel agreed to host the marriage, so Lauren spent over $2,000 on the ceremony and married the cutout in 2014. More than 50 of her loved ones attended the wedding. She even had a honeymoon with it in Los Angeles. She carried him up to the Hollywood sign and said that, quote, everyone makes sacrifices for the man they love, end quote. Thanks for watching. Which of these stories did you find the strangest? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit subscribe for more. See you next time on The Bad Badger.